Welcome to another edition of the 49er GoldCast. San Francisco, are you ready? Boom! Welcome to another edition of the 49er GoldCast. We are the voice of the faithful. I'm your host, Rudy Salisa III, and with me is my brother, my co-host,
Raymond Salisa first, baby.
And our esteemed co-host,
Old Man Davis.
Boom! All right, gents. Week 6 is in the books. San Francisco 49ers at Buffalo Bills. Final score 45-16 in favor of the Buffalo Bills. And what a royal butt kicking that was. I don't think that came as any surprise to the GoldCast. You know, we had discussions about this before. This was the return and the start of one very controversial Colin Kaepernick. I think a lot of fans were happy to see him get started. These were also the same fans that were booing last year and begging for Blaine to be back. Now these same fans were begging for Colin Kaepernick to be back. I think we're going to get into a lot of this. The first thing I wanted to talk about was something, Ray, you and I have been talking about off air, is that talking about 60 minutes of football, the 49ers are only really capable of about 30 minutes of football.
Yeah, about two quarters, sometimes a little bit more.
Sometimes
if they're on their A game.
If they're on their A game.
Which to this point has only been week 2 and week 4.
Yep. And 1, of course.
Yeah.
Well, we're the Masters.
Yeah, the week 1, of course. But week 2 and week 4, there's been about 3 competitive games and then 4 legitimate blowouts. Or three blowouts.
The 49ers can hang with you in the first quarter, they can hang with you in the second quarter, and then after they give you the 30 minutes, that's pretty much it. You might get some garbage time in the fourth quarter. That third quarter often is really the tail of the tape, and this week the fourth quarter is really what did us in. Colin Kaepernick was 13 completions for 29 attempts, 187 yards, 1 TD, no interceptions. Thank goodness. I was terrified that might happen.
Yeah, he was below 50%.
Yeah.
Statistically, it looks like a Blaine Gabbert day, although there were, it was marginally better. It was a marginal improvement at best.
And to be honest, he wasn't all that. Tyrod Taylor wasn't all that better. He was 17 for 26 for 179 yards. The only difference is he had 2 TDs and Cap only had 1. But, yeah. I mean, Tyrod Taylor wasn't that much better, LaShawn McCoy, of course, in the absence of Navarro Bowman, Shady was just exploiting the middle, which we kind of, I think we kind of saw coming a little bit. So, Raymond, let's kind of get into your take on what we're seeing. Lack of depth. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but let's get into it. I know you had a lot to say about this game.
Oh, that's pretty much it. It's very similar to last week. Most fans will agree. This is just a team that does not have a whole lot of talent, and in addition to that, doesn't have a whole lot of depth. The capable players that on the defensive side of the football that could make plays are not in the lineup, and as you can see, the backups are. There's a reason why they're backups. And some teams have a little bit more depth. This is a brand new system too. It's not like this is a Belichick system that's been here for over 10 years, and so guys just plug and play. You can't do that. It takes a very long time, and you have to have a good system to be able to plug and play like that, like you can in college. At the NFL, it is very, very rare, and there's typically only 1, maybe 2 teams throughout a couple decades that can pull it off. The Niners were the 20 years, had a 20-year run. Then in between that, it was Dallas for maybe about 10, and then after that, it's been New England ever since then. So for the last 30 years, there's only been 3 teams where you can have a plug-and-play system similar to college, but those are exceptions to the rule. In the Niners case, they just I don't see a problem with the scheme. Just like I said last week, I stand by that. It is not a schematic problem. It is a talent problem. It is a depth problem. Even the guys that we're seeing here, there's just not. Nick Ballore led the team in tackles again for the second week in a row, but he was exploited numerous times. I mean, if 9-3, I mean, the fact that he led the team in tackles is not saying much because LaShawn McCoy had 140 yards and 3 touchdowns. That is crazy. On 19 carries, less than 20 carries, he was able to accomplish that. We are just abysmal on the defensive side of the football, and that's because of what I just said, but also think about this. Ray Armstrong is gone, middle linebacker. Navarro Bowman is gone, all-pro inside linebacker. Jimmy Ward's gone, our best defensive back. He's not out, but he's week to week. He hasn't been put on IR. He just has some kind of quad problem that he can't seem to get over, and he's missed 3 games because of it. So you have 3 of our best defensive players all out. Keith Reeser started today. Tremaine Box started later in the game. He played better when he came in. Antoine Bethea is a good safety, but he's old, so he's exploitable in speed. Eric Reed is out there by himself trying to do all of this stuff. And then the cornerback situation, Rashad Robinson got hurt today, and he had to leave early. That's another pick, another rookie. You can't really fault the rookies too much. The Twin Towers played better today. Eric Armstead had a sack and a forced fumble. Yeah. Buckner had 2 sacks too. So there's progress there. There's a little bright spot we can throw into the mix. But overall, until those guys become the next Michael Strahan and Paul Pierce or Pierre Paul, then we're going to be in situations like this where the defense gets worn out. And the reason why the defense is getting worn out is because the offense can't produce anything because there's no depth or talent on that side. I think the offensive line is you definitely have a foundation there that you can build upon. And Carlos Hyde was playing well. He injured his shoulder at one point in the game, was able to come back. Don't know if there's a lingering effect there that might affect him for next games.
I'm always scared about Hyde's.
I am, and here's the problem. Rashad Robinson got hurt. Hyde had a shoulder injury. Eric Armstead and Buckner have been battling injuries in Armstead's second year, Buckner's first year. These are all Trent Baalke picks. Vance McDonald seems to be able to show flashes, but in the early half of his career was dropping footballs and couldn't capitalize it. And now that he has, he's just too fragile after he gets hit and seems to go down. So again, Baalke picks guys that have talent, maybe on paper, have talent in the film room, but for whatever reason are just not durable guys. And there's a bigger consistency with him picking fragile players and players that amount to nothing, especially the ACL laundry list of players that he loves to do that none of them have panned out. In fact, Tank Carradine hasn't done anything. Now it's his 3rd year. He's playing in his comfort zone, and he hasn't doing anything. Had 1 tackle today. That's it. No sacks for the season. And he's starting a lot too. He's trading off with Brooks. Aaron Lynch had a better game. I thought he applied more pressure. It was good to see him out there, but he had no tackles today. No tackles at all, just kind of pressures and forcing Tyrod Taylor out of the pocket. But he's kind of similar to Russell Wilson, where he can be elusive. He's not as good as Russell Wilson, obviously. But again, this is frustrating because there's no talent and there's no depth. And when you see that, you obviously can't blame the rookies for it's their first year, but you have second-year players that are, kind of not really getting to that second level yet. You have running backs that are just demolishing the first and second and third level of our defensive unit. And to me, what that tells me is that there is a glaring problem with the personnel selection that we have recruited. And that falls squarely on the shoulders of Trent Baalke, which is why, in my opinion, I think if this trajectory keeps happening, because it's not a schematic problem, these coaches are better than the previous coaches we had. That is a proven fact, and you can look at the history of their success to prove that, in case anyone's wondering. But that is not the problem. But the fact that we are still struggling and look even worse than we did in last year tells me that it is a personnel problem. It is a depth problem. It is a lack of talent problem. And that's a GM problem, which in my opinion, we already have Tom Gable, who's been promoted and looks to be right on the heels of Trent Baalke. Because if Trent Baalke sees the door, Tom Gamble is the next man up. I don't know anything about this guy. I haven't really researched him. I don't know what to expect. All I know is that Baalke's on the hot seat, and if this trajectory continues, which it looks like it most likely will, if I'm a betting man, I would bet that it will continue, then Trent Baalke's out of here by the end of the season. Guaranteed.
I agree with that.
Draft a quarterback.
Old man
At
Davis.
this rate, we're going to earn the first pick.
Oh man, yeah, we're going to talk about that. I'm going to get back to this Baalke thing. I have a couple questions for you, Rim. But first, Old man Davis, I turn to you.
And like you said, we actually watch a lot of tape. The breakdown on the team. They're an athletic, tall group. They tend to get tired. And today, just the line. I mean, if you want to give any game balls out today you need to give it to the offensive line. They whooped them up and down the field.
Whooped them.
I didn't care nothing about that. I care about winning games for Buffalo.
Winning games for
4-2
Buffalo.
right now.
That's what he said. I'm back. I'm better than ever, and I feel great here on the GoldCast talking about what? The 49ers, red and gold. Faithful, baby. Problem is, I'm talking about a losing team. I'm talking about a team 1-5. I'm picking my nose. What do I find? I find gold nuggets in there. And they don't even value for shit. All right, Alshon Jeffrey, what does he say? We gotta make some fucking touchdowns. I should say the same thing. Third down efficiency for red and gold for shit. Red zone efficiency for shit.
Actually, they're third in
Time
the
of
league.
possession for shit. Ray Armstrong, also known as Ray Solis. He said it all already for me. All right? The Ryan brothers stunk up that field for the 49ers, and they did it all in their face. Hats off to them. They did an outstanding job. The 49ers made Tyrod Taylor look like Tom Brady out there.
Well, it wasn't efficient passing. It was more the running game than anything else.
Yeah,
Deep
Sean McCoy.
balls. Running backs. Man. Sorry, Carlos Hyde. Somebody probably wishing they had that running back out in Indianapolis right about now.
Oh no,
No,
I'm more.
no.
No, I'm more.
Gore
no,
Gore would
I'm
be probably wouldn't be putting up the same numbers.
How about that 4th and 1? I don't think I think he would have got that first down better than Mike Davis did.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a questionable call, but I mean, that was around the time when who knows why they made that call. I don't know.
Let's go back to Baalke. Raymond, you were saying something before about Baalke's players not being durable, but is that something you can really? I mean, can you fully attest for something like that in the draft?
You can't quantify it, but what we can do is say, what's your track record? What's your track record for having an eye for talent?
Yeah.
And we can say that, you probably can't put on him, say, hey, these guys aren't durable. You probably can't say that. But what you can say is, like, these guys aren't panning out. They're either injured or they suck.
And his offense, I mean, let's be honest, his wide receiver choosing, for instance, is horrible.
Yes, in that regard, we know it's terrible. I mean, Patton makes plays here and there. I mean, he's great at picking free agent wide receivers. That's the easiest part
I think you
of
and
a
I could
GM.
pick free agent wide receivers.
Yeah. I mean, Torrey Smith had a 53-yard touch. It was nice to see him get a couple of catches, but let's be honest with the 53-yard touchdown. That was blown coverage, so we kind of got lucky. And the cornerback, and they were in a bunch trips, and they came right, and then Torrey comes left on the outside, and then nobody covered him. You had corners doubling up. They came and doubled up when one should have taken Torrey out there, and the safety was too slow. By the time he realized what had happened, it was too late. Kaepernick had already hit him, and just Torrey had made an inside move and scored a touchdown. So, I mean, but the problem is that those kinds of exploitations are happening on our side of the defense on a weekly basis and on a quarterly basis. It's not
30
like
minutes of football.
like how many of those plays happened in our favor? Zero. One today. That was it.
Yeah. So going back, all right. Let's move back over to Cap. Okay. Cap has a decent first half showing, like the rest of the team. He was what's the word? He was competent for at least the first 30 minutes of play, and then the next 30 minutes of play was, virtually shut out. How do we feel about Colin Kaepernick? I feel like I'm one of the few people that didn't really think Colin Kaepernick was going to make a huge difference, and I don't think he really will. I think that I think he's more protected, and he'll play better because he has more protection. But in general, as we discussed before, there just isn't enough on this 49ers team to live up to the schemes and actually efficiently pull off what this coaching staff is trying to do. And B, there isn't enough talent around Kaepernick to give Kaepernick any weapons. He doesn't, outside of Carlos Hyde, doesn't really have any weapons.
No, he doesn't. And if other guys were getting open, that would also... I mean, here's the thing. He overthrew Torrey Smith once. He underthrew Torrey Smith another time. So those were on Colin Kaepernick. There's two touchdowns that we could have had where Colin just made a bad throw, and he had time. Well, I mean, the underthrow where it skipped, that was more... He was rushed. But the overthrow in the end zone, Torrey had the guy beat. You're just missing the throw. I mean... Those are frustrating because it's like, dang, Gabbert was doing the same thing. And the underthrow when you're pressured, here's the thing. At least he was getting pressured, so there's something to consider and not just say, well, Cap just made a bad throw, because Gabbert was doing that while he wasn't getting pressured. So, like, marginal differences between Cap and Gabbert. The point is that when Cap has a supporting cast, he's really good because he's a quarterback that thrives under a really good supporting cast. He's not like a Brady or a Breeze or an Aaron Rodgers where your supporting cast can be pretty crappy, but you're so good that it doesn't matter because you're especially at the quarterback role, because you're the facilitator of the offense. So when you're above average, you can carry other players because you can make plays. Where in Cap's case, he's kind of an average quarterback, but he plays above average when his supporting cast is really good. He's not the type of guy that can carry the team, even though he is in he has the most important role in the offense. But there's just not enough, like we've said again. I mean, we're gonna, we're kind of a broken record right now, so I apologize to the fans if it sounds a little redundant, but the truth is there's just not enough talent and depth to carry this team. They're good for about 2 quarters, sometimes 3. Here, they were good until late in the third quarter, and then boom, that last touchdown where it became 24-13, that was pretty much it. They were in it for about 2.5 quarters. And then the offense cannot sustain drives.
What did you think about Colin Kaepernick? He was your favorite for a long time.
Damn near favorite. I think we should get in the backfield number 7 to run the ball behind number 7 when he gives number 7 the ball. And our run game would be indefensible. I think you have quarterbacks that can come into a game relieving poor starting quarterbacks and do somewhat well to either win a game or to continue on with the remainder of the season. Colin Kaepernick is not one of those quarterbacks. Colin Kaepernick is not a solution. Colin Kaepernick is going to need more games for us to all see what we already know. He is not the answer. He will not be wearing a 49er jersey next season.
I don't think so.
The man is only out looking for himself, and secondary is to win games for the 49ers.
Right now, this is his opportunity to audition for other teams in the offseason.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but think about it. Why? I mean, outside of his contract, I mean, since they fired Harbaugh, it's not like the Baalke or the 49er staff's given Kaepernick a whole lot of reason to believe that they're working in his best interest and trying to make this team succeed. In fact, if anything, it would appear as though management has put this team in every possible position to lose. Through draft picks, through free agent picks or lack thereof free agent picks, through coaching staffs. Now, again, I still am on team Chip Kelly and Jim O'Neill. I think Chip Kelly and Jim O'Neill definitely need another chance. I love how we're talking about this already at week 6, like it's the end of the season already. we still have 10 more weeks of football left. But that first round draft pick starting to look sweeter and sweeter. Raymond, kind of looking at that, we have to draft a quarterback for sure.
We do, and that's really where it starts. That's where you have to build. Some people think that you need to get free agency and that we had all this money and we could have spent it on free agents. And it's like, no. There's a difference. So when you have that much cap room, but
let's go to this, Ray. Let's go to this talk, because let me preface this talk before, and then I want you to talk about this, because this is something, the rumblings we've also heard against the anti-Baalke conversations, is that with all that free agency money that he didn't spend, the $49 million, this is just another prime example of how inefficient Trent Baalke has been as a GM, which is, we don't necessarily agree with that, and I want you to explain why.
It's pretty simple, actually, and for your average fan, they probably don't understand this, which is why we've heard the counter argument so much. When you're in a position like the 49ers, when you're rebuilding, you are not necessarily in a position to start to stack up on veteran help. That is more for a team that is on the rise, that is really less than a handful of players away from really kind of getting over the hump. The Raiders are a really good example of that. I don't particularly like to talk about the Raiders, but they fit this example really well, because they're a team that is on the rise. They're a team that had solidified their offense, and so they got players, they drafted players. So what did they do? They signed free agents. They signed Crabtree. They signed Bruce Irving. They signed Osemele. They signed Sean Smith, although Sean Smith has been a terrible pickup for them. He's kind of been a waste of money so far. But the point is, they just needed a few guys to get in there, and then they solidified the rest with depth and with draft picks. But in the Niners' case, they have with the Raiders, they had like maybe 4 holes to fill. So it's like, okay, let's fill that with 4 proven veterans. That's easy. The Niners have about 12 holes to fill. So you don't even have enough money to overpay that many veterans to plug into all those holes, because you're technically, mathematically speaking, financially, you can only afford like a handful of guys. And so if you were to invest in that now, that wouldn't make logistical sense, that wouldn't make financial sense. As you said in our conversation, it wouldn't make fiscal sense, meaning it's not going to make long-term sense, because when those contracts come up, you're not going to have the money to pay the guys that you need to pay. So you would cut loose those veterans, and then you'd have those same holes to fill again, or you'd present more holes. So the Niners are not in that position, so I agree with that. I agree with Trent Baalke not spending that money. Maybe he could have gotten a different guy other than Zane Beadles. Sure, you could have maybe 1 or 2 more to help the defensive line. They were stacked. They had tons of draft picks, tons of undrafted. It wouldn't make sense to pick up guys on there. The secondary, they picked 3 corners out of the draft. Again, you would have too many guys. Because guys have to get cut. So obviously you're not going to cut the veteran, but it's like, hey, what do I do with the new guys that I just got? You remember, you have 53. You can only pick 53, and of the 53, you can only suit 46. So you have to think about this on a global scale. You can't just say, well, we just buy an awesome free agent, no, we're great. No, it doesn't work that way. When the Niners get to a point where they are like playoff bound or on the verge of becoming playoff bound, then it makes sense to pick up and overpay for some of those veteran guys. Like in the Raiders' case, Osemele has been awesome. He's been a killer on the offensive line, doing awesome things for their run game. That makes sense.
The old man Davis, we gave that to you.
That makes total sense. But the Niners are not in that position. They have a nice foundation with the offensive line. And sure, Zane Beadles is a short-term solution for an up-and-coming Josh Garnett, who actually got moved to the right, and he beat out Tiller, but he struggled today. But he's a rookie, and he's only played once, and he missed most of training camp because of the rules, and he had to graduate Stanford first. And that's showing here. He's just not ready. He got tossed around. He got beat up. So if you think that the Niners solutions can be solved with just because we have so much cap money, you are horribly wrong, because that is not how free agency works. Free agency is meant to complement a team that is on the rise and up and coming, and you want to make a playoff push. So you just fill a couple of voids on your team with some proven veteran leadership. And then the rest is supplemented with draft and your depth chart. But in this case, the Niners are not in that position. If the Niners want to get back to relevancy, we have to cut ties with Champ Baalke, go through another round of drafts. Maybe you pick up one or two veteran guys again, because you do have to spend money according to the rules. You got to spend like a certain percentage by the time the season starts. So, but it has to start in the draft, and you have to cut ties with some of the guys that have had their chances, like Tank Carradine. You got to cut ties with him at the end of the year. You probably got to cut ties with, I don't know, I would assume Keith Reeser, Dante Johnson, third year, not doing much at all. I would cut ties with him. But I mean, maybe Ian Williams or Glenn Dorsey, those guys aren't doing much. Mike Purcell's proven that he's not very good at nose tackle. He's great in preseason, not so much in the real game, which is probably why he was a practice squad guy. But yeah, that's how it works. The free agency supports a team that's on the rise. It does not support a team that's rebuilding. That you rebuild through the draft, then you supplement with the free agency, not the other way around.
Absolutely. So, moving on, Chip Kelly has been now non-committal about who he's going to start next week. I don't know if you guys have heard this. Old Man Davis, did you hear about this?
We'll see.
Yeah, Chip Kelly is non-committal. Who goes under center next week? Old Man Davis, we start with you.
Number 7. And speaking of number 7, I'm seeing him possibly go to the Bears or maybe the Browns, where they really need some quarterback help. Okay, that's all I got to say.
Ray, what about you? What do you think? Where do you think who starts under center next week?
I think you give Kaep another shot. You got to remember,
You have to, right?
Blaine had 5 games to show that he was exactly, not too far behind from what Kaep showed today. But you got to remember, Kaep hasn't been getting the first team reps that Blaine's been getting, so you don't have the same body of work underneath your belt, and you don't have the same amount of live games under your belt. So because this team is offensive line wise and it is playing better than they did last year, I think you want Kaep in that situation, because he's proven himself. 2013 was the last really good year he had, where when he had a really good line, he was able to do a lot of really good things. At the same time, we had good receivers. We don't have that so much now. We have Quentin Patton, who's kind of hit and miss. We have Curley, who's the only consistent player there. We have Torrey Smith, who's just a one-trick pony. And you have tight ends that seem to be utilized more as blockers than they are in the passing game, because they're also inconsistent. Sometimes Blake Bell and Selleck have catches, and Vance McDonald does, and then other games they don't. They really they want to push Vance McDonald, but he seems to be hindering that progress by his own lack of durability.
But that's been Vance McDonald for years now. I remember a couple years back I was calling him the best Seattle Seahawks player on the field.
Yes.
He's my number one. He's my favorite Seattle Seahawk.
Yeah.
He just can't catch anything. I don't know. I don't understand how this guy is still on the team. I really don't.
Because he's awesome at blocking. I mean, if you just watch the blocking footage, he's killer. He's as good as Bruce. He's like Bruce Miller. Bruce Miller's awesome skill set was blocking.
Oh, so that's why.
He's great at blocking. He's great. I mean, the last, but I mean, going back to your question, I think easily it's Kaep. He needs more reps. You need to see what else he can do. And if through 5 more games he's just doing that, then who knows? I don't know if you really need to flip. I don't think going back to Gabbert, you know what you're going to get out of Gabbert, so going back to Gabbert's not an option. But your last option is Christian Ponder. And things are going to be pretty bad if you have to go that route. Not that he's like a terrible quarterback, but he doesn't even suit up for games. He doesn't play with the one. So you're going to get if Kaep goes 1-5, going to Christian Ponder isn't going to make things better. You're already out of the playoff race. You're 2-10 at that point. So what difference does it make? I think at this point you got to ride the ship out with Kaep.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, we all already know this. The quarterback of the future is not on this team right now. We said this several weeks ago on the GoldCast. The quarterback isn't here. The 49ers faithful that really know what's up, they already know that.
Yeah,
We knew that going
and the
into
quarterback we
season.
did draft this year now plays for the Bengals. Or I'm sorry, the Browns. Oh no, he did go to the Bengals. No, he did go to the Browns. Sorry.
Bengals, Browns,
Browns.
Bengals.
Browns? Yeah, no, for sure. The quarterback of the future isn't on this team. And what do we say at the beginning? And I think we all unanimously agreed upon this. Whatever quarterback started the season wouldn't end the season. We all knew that at some point they were going to make a switch. If Kaep started this week, if Kaep started week 1, you know who'd be playing right now? Blaine Gabbert in his first showing of the season. That's who'd be starting right now. Am I right or am I wrong?
No, you're right. I don't know if he'd have played this badly, but
Blaine Gabbert had the position in the palm of his hand, and he blew it.
oh yeah, he blew it big time.
Big
He
time.
didn't want it.
But you know what?
And now I only want to see Christian Ponder by week 12, just so I can see who's going to play number 2 quarterback next season.
Who's the battle for the second string quarterback?
Battle for backup 2017.
Yeah. You know, the thing here's the I lost my train of thought. Doesn't matter. Blaine Gabbert. I called this last year. Last year I called this on Blaine Gabbert. Remember, every single week I was going, man, you know, his passer ratings going down, his interceptions are going up. I saw this kid who started pretty decent when he first got on the field last year, but then each game, and I kept saying it. Remember, I kept saying it last year. Kept going. This guy's going down just a little bit. By the end, I mean, he got out just in time. Like the season ended and he ended the season with just enough dignity that you weren't really ready to write off Blaine Gabbert. But I saw the writing on the wall with this guy last year, and I called it even last year on the GoldCast. I was like, I don't know. I have my doubts, man. I keep looking at these numbers, and it just keeps getting worse and worse. Slowly but surely, incrementally, it just kept getting worse. And then this year, full blown, Gabbert's not the dude. All right. So looking ahead to the future, gentlemen, next week we have Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, they are 2.5 point favorite, or 2-point favorites over San Francisco 49ers. The question is, gentlemen, do you take that bet?
You take that bet, and it won't just be 2 points, ladies and gentlemen. This will be 10 points or more.
10 points. So you're saying they go over?
Hey, go over.
They're currently 2-3, which is second in the NFC South, which that is not saying a whole lot.
I want to say they're going to lose, but I'm going to go ahead and go against the grain and say this is where the Niners pick themselves up and get some dignity before going 1-6. And they beat Tampa Bay. I had them winning this game. I had them winning this week. I think if the starters were in there defensively, I'm not sure they would have probably given us another 10 minutes to compete and given the offense another opportunity to get some drives going. But I'm going to say you go against that bet, make some money, take the Niners. The Niners win by 7.
Ooh.
That's
Niners. Well, Raymond, you say Niners win by 7. Old Man Davis says
they win by 10.
Bucks win by 10. So you're taking the over, Raymond. You're definitely taking the under on that sucker, and you're saying actually that the 49ers will take it.
Yeah, why not?
All right, Raymond, where can they find us?
You can like us on Facebook at facebook.com/49ersGoldcast. You can also follow us on Twitter at 49ersGoldcast. You can also subscribe to us via iTunes, YouTube, and Stitcher for all the latest and greatest of our episodes as they become live. Subscribe and you'll get notifications as soon as we go live every week. We are on every week, guys, for the duration of the season. So subscribe now.
There you go. And we'll be going a little bit past that. We'll talk about more about that towards the end of the season. Raymond, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Ray Solis.
Boom. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Rudy Solis third, Rudy Solis 3RD. Old Man Davis, where can they find you?
You can find me, Levi Stadium, tossing balls to number 7 as he's practicing throwing the deep ball.
That's really nice of you to work with Kaep like that.
That's really nice of you to take a break.
He's going to need all the help he can get.
Old Man Davis, I figure you be in Vegas signing them papers, buddy. Getting ready for that big move.
It's going to take more than just the name on the dotted line. A lot of fans to coax to make sure we get them all in buses and head them out over into Las Vegas to watch.
Are you excited to make the move?
You can never replace the Oakland Raiders, but there's a new chapter in the autumn wind, and it's heading southwest to Las Vegas, Nevada.
Boom, there it is. So concludes another edition of the 49er GoldCast. We are the voice of the faithful. I'm your host, Rudy Solis III, and with me is my brother, my co-host,
Raymond Solis the first, baby.
And our esteemed co-host,
Old Man Davis.
Boom! See you next time. Same GoldCast time, same GoldCast channel.